You know that feeling you sometimes get, like you might be missing out on something big in crypto.
Hmm.
Especially now, right? With the Ethereum Shanghai upgrade, withdrawals are live.
Yeah, things have definitely shifted.
And it's like, okay, do I stick with my staking rewards, which are, pretty reliable?
Or
Or,
jump into something else.
yeah,
Maybe chase higher returns.
exactly. Like
Hmm.
providing liquidity on, say, one of these new layer 2 networks. It's a bit of a head scratcher, honestly.
Absolutely. That tension between the safe bet and maybe a more dynamic opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are feeling that. And that's actually what we're going to dig into today.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Because we've been looking into this project, StakeStone. Their whole thing is centered around something called Stone.
right, Stain.
It's this yield-bearing liquid asset for ETH. And the idea, I guess, is that maybe you can have your cake and eat it too. Like get staking rewards and tap into DeFi stuff.
That's the core concept they're putting forward. We've been reading through their background documentation, and it lays things out quite clearly. It introduces Stone first,
Okay.
and then it really breaks down the problems Stone is trying to solve for different groups.
Hmm.
Individual stakers like maybe you
Mm-hmm.
listening right now,
Mm-hmm.
but also these layer twos and other chains popping up,
Mm-hmm.
and even the developers building the apps on top.
Gotcha. So our mission for this deep dive, then, is to really unpack StakeStone. Let's pull out the key ideas from their docs, understand how Stone is supposed to make things, I don't know, smoother, more efficient, especially around liquid staking and using DeFi.
Exactly, a more seamless experience.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. What was the situation before StakeStone? What problems were they seeing out there, particularly after Shanghai?
Well, post-Shanghai, when ETH withdrawals became possible, individual stakers really hit this fork in the road.
Hmm.
Staking gave you a decent, fairly stable return, but then you'd see these potentially higher yields popping up elsewhere, maybe on a layer 2 network, those chains built to help Ethereum scale.
Right, lower fees and faster.
Yeah. Or maybe even on a totally different but compatible blockchain. So you constantly had this trade-off. Stick with staking, miss out on maybe better LP rewards,
Yeah.
or provide that liquidity, but then you lose your direct staking yield. It was an opportunity cost problem.
Choose door number 1 or door number 2.
But not both.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the StakeStone docs also mention liquid restaking tokens, LRTs. What's the deal with those? How did they fit in?
Right, LRTs. They emerged as a way to try and boost capital efficiency. Basically, tokens representing your staked ETH derivatives
Oh, okay.
that you could then sort of restake again in other protocols,
Yeah.
layering yields, essentially. The initial goal was definitely to tackle that opportunity cost we just talked about.
Sounds good in theory.
Well, yeah. But according to the documentation, it kind of created a new mess. The liquidity for all these different LRTs got spread really thin across tons of different pools,
Oh.
which made the user experience pretty fragmented. Suddenly, you're juggling multiple token tickers, trying to manage assets across different platforms. It got complicated fast. An intricate process, as they put it. So it solved one problem, but maybe created another. Less clarity, more complexity. Okay, what about the new kids on the block? These layer 2s and other EVM chains, what were their main headaches?
For them, the big challenge was just getting enough ETH liquidity onto their platform in the first place. They were essentially competing with Ethereum's base staking yield.
Because why move your ETH if you're already earning something relatively safe?
Exactly. StakeStone's docs point out that these new chains had to offer incentives high enough to overcome that opportunity cost. And with restaking becoming more popular, that base yield wasn't just the standard staking rate anymore. It could potentially stack up to like 10, maybe even 15%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a huge premium they'd have to pay just
Yeah.
to attract the basic liquidity they needed to function and grow.
Ouch. That sounds like a serious uphill battle just to get off the ground. And it wasn't just the users and the chains feeling the pinch, right? Developers were struggling too.
Absolutely. The docs mention this constant stream of new LRT tickers hitting the market, sometimes even multiple different ones from the same project.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so for developers trying to build apps, integrating all of these became a real nightmare. It complicated their code, their user journeys, their internal workflows. Just a fragmented and cumbersome development process is how the docs describe it.
I can imagine.
Plus, you had the added complexity of dealing with cross-chain ETH, trying to make things work smoothly across different blockchains, and handling rebase tokens. Those tokens where the supply changes automatically. It just made building truly omnichain applications incredibly difficult.
Okay, so it's a tangled web. Stakers face tough choices. LRTs create fragmentation. New chains struggle for liquidity. Developers are pulling their hair out.
Okay.
Seems like a system ripe for, well, for a solution.
Precisely. And that brings us to StakeStone's answer, Stone, their yield-bearing liquid asset.
Right. So break it down for us. How is Stone supposed to fix all these different problems we just laid out? Let's start with the stakers.
Okay, for stakers, the fundamental idea behind Stone is removing that core opportunity cost. You stake your ETH, you get Stone back. But Stone itself isn't just sitting there. It's designed to represent your staked ETH plus potentially optimized yields from various sources, including staking. And crucially, you can then take that Stone and use it in DeFi protocols across different chains.
Ah, so you're earning the underlying yield, but your capital isn't locked away. It's still liquid, usable.
Exactly. It aims to let you earn optimized returns on top of that base staking yield while keeping your assets fully liquid and deployable. It's about maximizing the utility, the efficiency of your capital.
Hmm.
And the key thing StakeStone emphasizes is that Stone isn't just aggregating yield streams like some LRTs tried to do. It's creating a fungible representation of that underlying staked position and its yield.
Fungible meaning one
Yes.
stone is basically like any other stone, interchangeable.
Yes. And that standardization, that fungibility, is what could potentially make it much easier for other DeFi protocols to integrate and build upon compared to dealing with lots of different fragmented LRTs. It unlocks composability.
Okay, that does sound like a potential game changer for individual stakers. Instead of that either a choice, it's maybe a both hand situation. What about the layer 2s and other chains that were struggling to attract ETH? How does Stone help them?
For those ecosystems, Stone offers a way to simplify liquidity bootstrapping because Stone itself carries an inherent yield from the underlying staked ETH.
Right.
These chains don't necessarily need to offer quite as massive standalone incentives to attract capital. Stone holders might be willing to bridge their assets over more readily because they're already earning a base return.
So it lowers the barrier to entry for liquidity.
That's the idea. The documentation suggests it helps create a more organic, robust, and sustainable environment for growth. Makes it easier for new projects to get going and for existing ones to maintain liquidity without maybe relying solely on huge, potentially temporary incentive programs.
That makes a lot of sense. Tap into yield-bearing liquidity rather than just trying to pull inner ETH over. Okay, and the developers, the ones dealing with the integration nightmares.
StakeStone calls Stone a rebalance token. For developers, it's positioned as a more standardized, versatile building block.
How so?
Well, if Stone successfully consolidates yield and represents staked ETH in a consistent way, developers don't have to worry about integrating dozens of different LRT tickers. They integrate Stone.
One integration instead of many.
Potentially, yes.
Mm.
The docs also highlight its design for facilitating omnichain functions, making it easier to move and use across different chains, and simplifying the headaches around rebase tokens. It aims to provide a more stable, adaptable foundation for dApps.
So fewer headaches, more building. Sounds good. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've gone through the problems and how StakeStone proposes Stone as the solution. What are the main takeaways here, the sort of aha moments for you, the listener?
I think the central aha is that StakeStone is making a direct play to solve that post-Shanghai fragmentation and opportunity cost problem. Stone, this yield-bearing liquid asset, is presented as a kind of master key.
A key to unlock both staking rewards and DeFi participation simultaneously.
That's the promise, yes. Avoiding that difficult choice.
Right.
And the other big thing is seeing how this could create win-wins. Stakers potentially get better, more flexible yields, new chains get an easier path to liquidity, and developers get a simpler toolkit, which hopefully leads to more innovation and better apps for everyone.
And the StakeStone docs also mentioned the bigger picture for LSTs liquid staking tokens like Stone and those LRTs, the restaking ones. What was their take on that?
They suggest that LSTs, because they're directly backed by staked assets like ETH, and by extension their derivatives like LRTs, are positioned to become really dominant forms of liquidity in DeFi.
Why dominant?
Because they have that native Ethereum yield built in, that underlying return could make them more attractive as a base asset, as collateral, as liquidity, compared to just holding plain ETH, which doesn't have that built-in yield.
Interesting. So the yield itself becomes a fundamental property that attracts more use. Okay, so for you, the listener, trying to get your head around this quickly, StakeStone is basically trying to streamline things.
Yeah, simplify a complex corner of DeFi.
Their Stone asset is aimed at making your choices easier, maybe boosting your overall return potential, and also smoothing the way for new crypto projects and developers.
Exactly. It's all about trying to foster a more interconnected, efficient DeFi world where you can combine the benefits of staking and liquidity provision more easily.
All right, great stuff. Let's wrap this up then. Can you quickly recap the main points we hit in this deep dive on StakeStone?
Sure, we started by looking at the landscape before StakeStone, focusing on that dilemma for ETH stakers post-Shanghai.
Right, the opportunity cost.
Yeah, and the fragmentation caused by early LRTs, the struggles new Layer 2s faced attracting ETH, and the integration headaches for developers.
Okay.
Then we dug into StakeStone's answer, Stone, how it aims to remove the opportunity cost for stakers by providing yield plus liquidity,
Uh-huh.
how it could simplify bootstrapping for new chains by bringing yield-bearing assets, and how it offers developers a potentially more standardized, omnichain-friendly building block.
So why should you, our listener, really care about this? What's the relevance?
Well, understanding these kinds of new solutions is, I think, becoming pretty crucial if you want to navigate DeFi effectively.
Things change fast.
Exactly. As new ways to earn yield and use your crypto pop up, knowing about projects like StakeStone, which aim to simplify and optimize things, can help you make smarter choices for your own strategy, potentially improve your results.
And looking forward, what's the broader trend here?
I think the rise of yield-bearing liquid assets like Stone really points to this ongoing evolution in liquid staking and DeFi overall. We're probably going to see a lot more innovation focused on capital efficiency, on composability.
Making assets work harder, basically.
Yeah, and blurring the lines between different ways to earn yield, leading towards a potentially more interconnected financial system on-chain.
Okay, fascinating. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. As this DeFi landscape keeps evolving so quickly, how might solutions like these yield-bearing liquid assets fundamentally change the way we think about and interact with our staked assets across all these different blockchains? Definitely something to ponder.